everyone, and welcome to episode 630 of Good Luck High Five.
I'm one of your hosts, Tyler.
I'm another one of your hosts, Megan. Usually, there would be... if this seems so bizarre to you, it is because I, in fact, am being Maria and Tyler is being me.
So it's a little disconcerting for everyone.
Absolutely, because as you all know, Tyler is the person who is hired to play me. And
Yeah,
Tyler
exactly.
is my understudy.
So I can't play Maria because I don't have the training.
Because I'm Maria's understudy.
Exactly, yeah.
So I'm understudying for Maria and you're understudying for me.
Exactly.
And what you're listening to is a podcast that's all about Magic the Gathering. Whether you are super excited to hear about Final Fantasy coming your way this summer, or maybe you're just excited about MagicCon Chicago this very weekend, we are here for you. So those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. It's an all-news episode today.
It is, yeah. It's jam-packed as well. There was truly a ton of news in the last week.
There has been an avalanche of news.
Yes.
One thing on top of the other. And they're not even all adjacent to each other in the news universe.
They really aren't, yeah. Except, obviously Magic being the thread that's
the connecting.
the proverbial thread.
They all live in a city called Magic, but they're all in very different neighborhoods.
Yeah, different districts even.
Yeah, they're not, their houses are not side by side. Which is famously how neighborhoods go.
Yeah, exactly. And famously how I prefer my news is just, one house next to the other.
Exactly.
When I hear a piece of news, I imagine what it would look like as a house.
Yes.
And what the other houses around it would look like.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, okay, please tell me about the adjacent home here. Well, in addition to talking about Final Fantasy and the upcoming Pro Tour and MagicCon Chicago, we're going to talk about the Magic movie that's coming our way. We're going to talk about
Commander brackets.
That's right. I was like, what even is? My brain can't hold it all. Commander brackets?
Yeah, there really are. And there's at least one more thing I think as well that I am also not remembering. But we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But before we do that, we have some people to thank. And first and foremost amongst them are you, the listeners, and especially the patrons of Good Luck High Five.
We truly could not make this show without you. And
Absolutely
it is from
not.
the bottom of our hearts that we thank you each and every week. Because, when I think about, what is powering this show, I think of it as these group of people in a neighborhood, and all their houses are next to each other and they can reach out their windows and hold hands. And it's that kind of energy, I think, that's powering the show.
I reach out my window and hold hands with my neighbor.
Yeah, same.
I genuinely wish that I could. I watch them a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say that I feel like I was possessed by the spirit of Maria, truly, for a moment. Because you said, when I think about what is powering this show, and my brain said farts. And that's not me.
No, that's
is
Maria.
That's not me.
You're
That's
right.
Maria.
You're right.
She was there. She projected herself into my brain. But thank you so much. That's not to get away from patreon.com/GLHF Magic, the place to go if you would prefer your podcasts to be powered by you and not by farts.
Yeah. And honestly, though, if you wanted to be powered by farts, we will take that suggestion as well.
Exactly. And the best way to tell us that that's what you want is by becoming a patron.
It's true. You have more access to us, and those kinds of suggestions are more likely to be heard.
You have access to the Discord where you can tell us what you would like the episodes to be powered by, in addition to being powered by you. And on top of that, it is truly just a really wonderful community of people. You can find someone to talk about your sealed pools with, your draft pools with, right? Especially when a new set comes out.
Yes.
We love seeing all of the first decks that people put together at their sealed events or put together in draft on Magic Arena. It's a really fun place to talk about them, what's going really well in your draft, what's going really poorly. Of course, with these new commander brackets that we're going to talk about today, there's a lot of talk there about what different cards or what different decks fit into these different brackets.
Yeah.
So if you are just itching to talk to people about Magic, our Discord is a really wonderful place to do that. And you can get access to that by becoming a patron at any level. In addition to telling us what you would like this to be powered by. All right, Tyler, first things first.
Yes.
MagicCon Chicago is this very weekend.
It's coming up. It is hurtling towards us as, like those cars that are in this set.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I was just in Phoenix. And I honestly until yesterday, and then I leave tomorrow for Chicago. So
it's a perfect. It's a real
storm of events for me right now. In addition to sitting on the wrong side of this table and wearing the headphones, which is
already you're in
wild.
an entirely different dimension, essentially.
I am.
Yeah.
Headphones are a different dimension. The dimension of having to hear yourself speak. Anyways, I took a Waymo, which is a self-driving car.
Yeah. I've heard of this.
They have them as like it's like a Lyft or an Uber, but no one drives it.
Yeah.
It drives itself.
How was that?
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's so bizarre because you're just sitting there and the wheel turns. You can see the little map on the screen of like what it sees.
Okay.
Anyways,
guess that's kind of nice.
It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
It was also one of those things where it's like, this could never happen in Minnesota because this car is functioning in an environment where it never has to encounter ice or snow.
Yeah, that's
which
a really
I think
good
is very
point.
key
It does
to the
feel
self-driving
key,
car
actually.
experience.
Yeah. When I think about that,
Right? I'm like, I trust this car in this context of just like it being hot and dry and the road being exactly normal.
If the road being very static.
Exactly. But I need a human being to make the decision to start braking 1 block away from the intersection when it's icy out.
Yes.
Because that's a human's decision.
Yes. I think that, I love the way you put that. Yeah.
To be like, I really want to live right now.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Which is something I say all the time. You know what I mean? I really want to live right now.
Hey, I really want to live right now. So it is hurtling towards us. MC Chicago coming at us like a self-driving car.
Yes.
It stopping at all the appropriate times.
Yeah, of course.
But nonetheless continuing towards on its journey.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like the thing that I'm really interested about, well, a couple things I'm interested about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a brand new format, both draft and constructed. And it's going to be standard this time around.
Yeah, for Pro Tour Ether Drift.
Yep. And I'm really curious to see how these new cards, as I often am, are going to influence this situation. Always, it's interesting to see a Pro Tour because there often are, even in a format that's fairly established, there are going to be some new decks or some new tech that different teams have brought to the table. But I feel like in this situation where the set is going to be basically 2 weeks old at the time when it comes out, like there really is not. It feels like it's more wide open than usual in both of the both draft and standard. So I'm curious. In standard, I'm just curious. It feels like it's been a really healthy standard, and there's been a lot of different options for people to play. Yeah. I'm curious how does this new little dash of spice, like, is it just a little too much and then it ruins the whole soup, or is it, does it just like bring out the flavors? Does it enhance them?
That's a really good question because standard has notoriously makes it sound negative, but like positive notoriety. Notoriously been really good right now.
Yeah, truly.
There's been a lot of different decks that have kind of risen to popularity. You can kind of play a very wide variety of things right now.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of that like rock, paper, scissors feel of you can pick a deck that's really good against some of the metagame, but then some of the metagame is going to be really good against you.
Yeah, truly.
So that being said, here comes some car.
Yep. Well put.
And then a lot of times we used to see this in the past when the Pro Tour was right after the release, and now that it's moved back into that area, that you could see aggro decks really rise to the top in the new standard environment. So we see that with Gruul mid-range, which of course was already a deck that was happening, but it got the addition of Draconautics Engineer from this set.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely, that card, if you aren't aware of it, is a 2-mana 2/2. It has 2 exhaust abilities. One of them is other creatures you control gain haste until end of turn, and you can put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And then it also has exhaust 3 and a red, create a 4/4 red dinosaur dragon creature token with flying. So it's one of those cards that comes down early. It's always that one red ability. The first exhaust ability is always like a threat to kind of create a really explosive turn. And then later on, if it sticks around, it can make a large threat in the air. And so, it's one of those cards that just adds a lot of staying power, even though it's good early.
Yeah. It also has Afterburner Expert. This is the 2 and a green 4/2 Goblin Artificer that has the exhaust ability 2 green, put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. But more importantly, it says whenever you activate an exhaust ability, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So giving it that late game reach.
Yes.
Of putting this guy back onto the battlefield.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see, like, will aggro have its moment once again, especially as people have been feeling like Ether Drift is a little bit more aggro, throwing some aggro cards into the pool in general.
Yeah.
What else, Tyler? What else are you kind of feeling around Standard?
Well, yeah, I think so. There's Esper Pixie. There's these decks that this town ain't big enough card, which I would never in a million years have predicted would become a competitive format staple. But ever since that deck that really which it was not the last competitive event, but the one before that. I think it wasn't
Spotlight Series Atlanta.
Yes, it wasn't Foundations, but Atlanta. Yeah, where that kind of that combination came onto the scene, and then in Foundations, I think people found like more refined ways to use
absolutely.
that. And I'm just curious if that. I mean, I feel like we'll see some of that for sure. So either there's the Esper sort of like. There's the Esper version of the deck, and then there's the Dimir version of the deck, and the Esper version kind of has more of that enchantment heavy feel where you've got that, I can't remember the name of it, the 1-mana 1/1 that gives a +1/+1 counter each time an enchantment enters the battlefield.
The little here he is,
yes.
Optimistic Scavenger.
That's the
there
one.
they are.
Optimistic Scavenger, and the Nurturing Pixie that picks something up. So it has like a little bit more synergy and maybe a little bit more explosiveness, but the mana obviously is a little bit worse. But that kind of that shell of having these like really efficient enchantments that you can bounce, the Hopeless Nightmare being the discard one, and then I can't remember, Nowhere to Run, I think it's called 2 mana, and it gives -3/-3. Those cards have been so efficient with that ability to bounce either 2 things of your own or 1 thing of your own and 1 thing of another player's. And I'm just curious to see, what new cards might slot into that. There were some good enchantments. I think there's that. Oh man, again, the name's gonna escape me. But in that, in the new set, there's a 2-mana enchantment that has Start Your Engines, and it also makes they sacrifice a creature and or vehicle and or planeswalker maybe. And I think that's a card that could definitely make an impact in that kind of a deck. Like, I'm just curious, will there be sort of refinements like that, or will there be something brand new that comes out of this, that we're not expecting at all?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something that, I think we're all on our way to find out.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, that's what's great about watching that top level play, is really getting to see, the players that have spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about it. They are going to bring to the table this like really interesting brew of stuff, I'm sure. And I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah. What about draft? Because that is also going to be part of this.
Yes.
We always talk about how we love seeing the pros draft a new format.
There's
because
nothing like it.
You get to see them do some really surprising things sometimes.
Yes.
They're working hard to unlock not just like what color pairs are best, but if there's like an underutilized color pair, is there a way to find it and make it really good in case you're getting past a lot of those cards?
Yes.
How have you been feeling about Ether Drift Draft, Tyler?
I've been really surprised by it, to be honest. I think we, in the last episode where we were talking about the pre-release, we were talking about the format seeming like it was relatively fast. And I would say my experience of draft, at least on Arena, has been that it's actually been pretty slow. Like that, that the things that I've found more success with have been of the 2 new mechanics in the set. I would have said that Start Your Engines / Max Speed would have been the more impactful one in draft, but Exhaust has really been the thing. I feel like almost any card with Exhaust on it, I'm pretty happy playing it in my decks. Like it's just like they're kind of generically good in a way that I didn't expect. And green has emerged as sort of like far and away the best color. And I think that's in large part because green plays the slow game maybe better than any of the other colors do. Let
me tell you, I am so happy to trade off. If my opponent plays a creature with Exhaust, and I am so happy to trade off with it before they activate that ability.
100%.
If they offer that trade, I'm always like, yep. Let's take it.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. Get that guy off the table, you know?
Yeah. So it's those cards that, with Exhaust, or even if it has another activated ability that it is fairly expensive. I think in past sets in recent times, there've been cards like that seem like they might be able to accrue a lot of value in the late game, but they just are too slow, or like you just don't have time to get to that spot. But in this set, at least so far, it seems like that time is there. And for a set that was all about vehicles and has a mechanic called Start Your Engines and Max Speed, I think a lot of us thought it was going to be maybe on the faster end of things. But yeah, surprisingly, that's not the case.
Yeah. If we're looking at the data over on 17 lands, just this doing like a really top level of the commons.
Just a gloss.
Exactly. A lot of they have their new grades
part
of this, which I love.
Is cool. Yeah, it has a very nice visual feel to it.
The visual is very good.
Yeah.
A lot of the top ones are in green. Like green is up here at the top, and then after that, it's black.
Yep.
But of course, Stampeding Scurryfoot.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to the little one drop that could.
Truly, yeah.
This card is so sick.
Yes. I love it. Feels so good. Like it, I mean, you get to play a one drop that you can, it's single green and you can just fit that in whenever you want to. It's obviously great to get it down early and just have something that's on the board, creating a situation where you're not going to get completely run over. But obviously, once you get to use that 3 and a green exhaustibility and it becomes a 2/2 and then it brings a little 3/3 elephant creature along with it. I mean,
so good.
It's so good. Yeah, it feels so good whenever you get to do that.
This card feels like an uncommon to me.
I agree.
And I, of course, got absolutely wrecked by someone having this and then the card that says if you haven't activated an exhaustibility this turn, you can reactivate one.
Yes.
And they just like every turn they made an elephant.
Yes,
and I was
like,
yep.
Okay, that's
okay.
not
Like
great.
I just didn't draw removal within like 2 turns. I was like, all right, we're done
game's
here.
Kind of over.
Yeah. Migrating Ketrodon is in here, which is the 6/6 that gains you 4 life. It also has cycling and reach.
Yep.
Just like everything. It's like, hey, do you want a card with a little bit of everything?
Truly. Yeah, it's one of those cards. Yeah, with that, if you get to turn 6, which again, in this format, I think you're going to get to turn 6 more often than in some previous ones. That comes down and it's sort of like, if you were behind before, you can often catch back up just off the back of that card.
Yep. And then we also have cards like Run Over, just it being instant speed. I've had this cast for 1 green. I've cast this for 1 green so many times.
I mean, so efficient. It feels so good. One of the better bite spells that we've had in
a long time. Yeah. Everyone talks about Hazard of the Dunes. What a mean guy.
Yeah.
What a mean worm. That's a mean worm, man.
And again, I feel like there have been lots of these sort of 4-mana 4/4s with like a little bit of upside in recent times. They did turn the dial. They turned the dial up on it a little bit, I think, for sure. Because Trample and Reach, like those are two. Again, it blocks well, it attacks well, and then it also has an exhaust ability, which is expensive. But if it gets to 7, if you get to 7 mana, and the board is a little stalled, which again happens in this format more than in recent times, I think making it into a 7/7 with Trample and Reach, like there's not a lot of things that block that profitably, and you feel good for sure.
I can't say 100% for certain because my memory famously evaporates as soon as it sees the light of day. I might have written the flavor text on this card.
Hey,
this one feels like me.
That's I would agree with that. In my mind,
on this set,
in my heart, I give you the credit for it.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm super excited to see. Will everyone just be trying to be in green?
Yep.
Are they going to go through and find those, like we were talking about, those ways to make the most of other colors when green is too overdrafted at the table?
Yeah, it feels like the last thing I'll say about it is I think like red and black together have been, I would say, the most successful of the aggressive pairs. So I'm curious if someone will find a way to make that work. White has felt like the weakest, which has not been the case in recent times. I think there was a long span of time where white and draft was just kind of like it was just not really playable. But in recent times, often white has been a part of the best color pair, I would say. And
they threw in Inspiring Overseer in every, like the Inspiring the 2 and a 1 for 2 and a white where you gain a life and draw a card. Then they like slapped flying on it. They were doing that for a while. That was really boosting that color.
For sure. So this is one though where I'd just be very curious to see if someone finds a way to make some of those less drafted colors really shine.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, of course, the big talk is the new commander brackets.
Yeah. What a crazy thing to try to. It's always hard to make categories for something that maybe hasn't previously had really defined categories, and so it's been a little controversial. I think it's fair to say.
Yes,
but also they are calling it a beta, so I appreciate that as well.
Yeah. So Gavin announced this back last week on February 11th. And he's saying that on behalf of the Commander format panel, he's talking about this. They put this together. Generally, though, the number one thing they're saying to take away is that, like, if you're just playing with your friends casually, like, nothing has to change for you.
Yes.
If you and your friends already have, like, a strong dialogue around how you're playing Commander, don't worry about this. This is one of the ways that they're hoping to make all of those experiences where maybe you go to a store and play, or you go to a con and play, you go to any kind of event and play with someone that you don't know or you haven't interacted with before. They're aiming to make those experiences better.
Yes. Which is a really great goal. And I think, I think that's a great way of thinking about this. It's like a tool that you can put in your tool belt and you only have to take it out when you need it. It's not a set of like, it's not a cage that you're trapped in. It's just a tool, It's just like a little saw,
Yeah, it's a it's a saw. And there's 5 brackets. They go one from exhibition, which is what they're calling the very casual, the ultra casual commander deck, which is that you're kind of just having a good time, right? Like the exhibition part of it is like you're exhibiting some part of the game that you love. Maybe it's a creature type that you love. Maybe it's some kind of silly mechanic that you love. You're really doing something that
is like 90% driven by fun.
Yes.
It's not like you don't want to win the game, but you really are showing up because you're like, I am excited to get all these cards together and kind of try to do something fun with it.
Yes, I want to have a nice time.
Yeah.
Then it goes to core, which is sort of like they're calling this as if you were playing a pre-con from a recent set. That's kind of what those are geared at. They're supposed to be a 2 or a core. Then there's 3, which is upgraded, which is, right. It's
like an upgraded
right down
pre-con.
the middle.
Yeah,
yep,
that's like,
exactly.
Like you took a pre-con and you added some, you boosted it a little bit.
4 is optimized and 5 is CEDH. So they have included in this something called the Game Changers list, which is a list of cards in each color, because each of these brackets kind of references like 1 exhibition has no Game Changers, 2 maybe it has no Game Changers actually, 3 is like up to 3 Game Changers, 4 go nuts,
yeah,
like have the best time. And
then 5 is like go nuts, but like in a hyper focused way. Like,
yes,
like
exactly.
Yeah. The CEDH, I think, the best way to think about it is on some level, if you need to ask if your deck is CEDH, it probably is not.
Yeah, the answer is it's not, because CEDH is its own thing.
Yeah, and if you once you have figured out what that is, then you will know and you won't have to ask the question.
And then the Game Changers list is fascinating, but also I honestly think that it has just like a lot of the cards that you would expect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Blue has Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah. It's like, yes, that card is a game changer.
Yeah, that card is
really, you play that and the game changes.
Yes. It has Expropriate in blue. It has Rhystic Study. Right. White has Smothering Tithe.
A lot of tutors in here. A lot of like really, like the Cyclonic Rift obviously is this like crazy kind of a board clear, it's
I mean, shout out to Red only having 2.
Yeah, well done.
Keeping it real, Red, keeping it real cash. And multicolor, Keenan Bonder Prodigy, I think, is again one of those ones where you're like, yep, of course.
Just really warps the game.
Yeah, Winota, Joiner of Forces, Grand Arbiter Augustin the Fourth. You're like, right, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that you're like, do you know what? It just makes
the
sense.
Feeling of those cards getting played, and you say, yes, they should be on this list.
Before I even looked at the Game Changers list, I was like, Cyclonic Rift is on here.
It's
right. You're just like, it's on here.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, to give you an idea, I was kind of looking through some of the decks that we've played on the show.
Yeah.
I was looking at our Innistrad Remastered list to give you an idea. So Halana and Elena, Moxfield, and we're looking at these in Moxfield, which is very handily made these, like, put an estimated bracket on each of your decks. And they do say, like, hey, what they're doing, like the tool that they're using can't scrape for like 2-card combos. So that's something that you have to put in on your own.
It's kind of like, it's not perfect, but it gives you an idea, and then they're expecting you to, update that idea if you know for certain that it shouldn't be in that bracket.
Exactly. If you built a deck and it's like, I think this is a 2, and you're like, there are explicitly some 2-card combos in here
that make this at least a 3.
Yes, that make this a 3, maybe a 4.
Yeah.
But that Halana and Elena deck you played, that's a 2.
Yeah.
Which that feels about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gralnock is a 3.
Okay.
Like that. That makes sense. I do think I have like a Cyclonic Rift. I think that's probably based on the fact that I love me a Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because I'm a bad person.
as you know, as Commander Arcade has well and truly established. You know, like, there's no other two ways about it.
And then the Liesa deck that Aaron played is a 4, which I think, like, playing it right, we were all like, that makes
it's strong, and that commander really makes its presence known. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, it is cool to see. You know, that'll be one of the fun things I think about this for the people that do find it to be a constructive tool. Like, I think that ability to sort of say, like, oh, let me think about these decks that I've been playing and how they do relate to the other decks in my group, in my play group, or at my local game store where I go to play. You know, I think it provides a baseline. As they said, it's a beta, so they're going to keep, you know, iterating on it. But I think having a baseline feels like it's a positive thing in those situations where, like you said, there isn't that established, you know, communication situation that you might have in a friend group.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to people using this, or to, like, using this and then continuing to kind of iterate on what's happening here.
Yes.
You know, talking about this, seeing the bracket get kind of updated or changed around as it needs to.
Yeah, agreed.
As it needs to be. But yeah, you know, as always, communication is key. Just get on out there and talk to people.
Yeah, that's a good message.
Communicate with them about what your deck wants to do. Or doesn't want them to do, depending on what kind of person you are. I want to talk about the fact that this does... the bracket does explicitly call out extra turns, which, okay. All right.
It's interesting that it does get explicitly called out. Yeah.
All right, I see you.
Message received, you know.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe not message accepted, but
no,
message
it's certainly not. Return to sender scrawled on the envelope in, like, really big marker from me to you. We want to stop and say thank you to our sponsor, Card Kingdom. CardKingdom.com/GLHF, the best place to go for all of your magical needs.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the new set coming out, like, there is, you know, there are both products to enhance your decks, you know, with some kind of bling, like, you know, sleeves, etc. But also, you know, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of a Magic deck, which is to say the cards. You know, they'll get you those cards, and they'll get them to you promptly, and, you know, they will also get them to you all in one package, which is really appreciated.
Absolutely, it is. You know, Card Kingdom. Here's some of the slogans that we've made for them recently.
Yeah.
Card Kingdom, infamous for being great, which is kind of like what we were talking about.
It
notoriety.
is, exactly.
Infamous
It's notorious / infamous for being great.
Yeah, Card Kingdom, notorious in the good way.
Yeah.
Card Kingdom, they don't sell chips, but they do sell cards. There we go.
All right.
Card Kingdom, not going there could kill you. Don't remember what that one was about.
Well, even so, I mean, it you know, it does put a fire underneath your butt a little bit. Though,
it does. It does. So get on over to cardkingdom.com/GLHF, because not going there could kill you.
Yeah, and as we said earlier, you know, right now I really want to live. You know.
Yeah, man. Me too. All right, next up is Final Fantasy. Tyler, are you a Final Fantasy boy?
You know, great question. Thanks for asking.
Lad?
You know, I really have never played any of the Final Fantasy games, so I cannot profess to be a Final Fantasy lad. I guess I feel like I don't want to have a Final Fantasy. Like, I want to, you know, the fantasies to keep going. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have like a you know, an abundance of fantasy, you know, in my life. So in that sense, I feel like I'm not, you know, a Final Fantasy lad.
Yeah, I have a friend who is into Final Fantasy, and who lives elsewhere, and I do, like, they are a good friend, but I don't text with them all the time.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
They texted me out of the blue, being like, "Oh my god," about the Final Fantasy cards, which is just to say that if you're into Final Fantasy, or if you're not into Final Fantasy and you're being grumpy about this, just know that there are people out there who are like, ah!
Yeah, truly. And I think that is such a good example of, I think, the reason why they want to make sets like this is that it really does. It is an event for people of that fan base, you know, like if they have any interest in collectible card games, any interest in this type of game, I think that they will at least check it out. Will at least pay attention and say, like, oh, is this something that I might want to, you know, go to a pre-release for, or, you know, just a way of getting those people engaged with the game.
They specifically sent me the Blue Sky post from Magic, which not really a Magic player.
Yeah, sure.
They about Emmett Selch Unsundered, and the backside of which is Hades, Sorcerer of Eld.
Oh my gosh.
With saying this is everything to me. I can explain it to you why this is so redacted genius, but really just take my word for it.
All right.
So, anyways,
that's really lovely. I mean, I think that I love that energy. As I said, I have no emotional / nostalgic attachment to Final Fantasy whatsoever, but I like to play Magic the Gathering, and I don't hate the I don't hate the idea of it being in this other world. Like, I really don't. So it gets that excitement level is just a really fun thing to see other people having about the game that you love.
It's answered some questions, right? There's an article out today, February 18th. This is Tuesday when we're recording this. Today, which says it's coming out June 18th. And it says it will have characters from every mainline Final Fantasy game. Wow. Which I know was one of the questions because there are
a number.
Notoriously many Final Fantasies.
Really? I see. Okay, so maybe that's the that's the trick.
Word. Anyways,
all right, I'll ponder on that.
There are many. So they're saying that it has the largest collection of Final Fantasy artwork ever in a single game.
Wow.
Yeah. There's also going to be some classic Final Fantasy art pieces on some of these cards.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So here's a couple of cards that we've seen. Again, maybe this means something to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah. But I do want to talk about this spooky little guy.
I mean, he's got a
salamander horror.
He's got either a sword in his hand or a sword hand.
Like, that's what I'm wondering. Tonberry is their name. They look like they're holding it.
Yeah.
But they're a salamander horror. They're like so cute and also really creepy.
Yes.
I think part of the problem is that like they would kill you because you'd let them get close.
Yeah, and it's nighttime in this art, and they've got a little lantern, but you might not see it because it's just a tiny little lantern, So they might be up next to your ankles before you know it, and then next, that knife could do some real nasty work.
It does claim to only be a chef's knife.
Okay.
It says, this creature enters tapped with a stun counter on it. It's 1 black for a 2/1. And it says chef's knife. During your turn, this creature has first strike and death touch.
Wow. Notoriously two abilities that are really good together.
Yes, very nice together. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's see. They released each of the expansion symbols, which are some of them are very cute.
They really are. Yeah.
There's a little bird.
A little bird, and I guess
a little bird from the side and a little bird from the face.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, or is that? I'm the other one makes me think a little bit of a cat, but also but it must be the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we know we're getting 3 things because they gave us the set codes for each. There's Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy, the set. Then there's Final Fantasy Commander set. And then there's Final Fantasy Through the Ages. And Final Fantasy Through the Ages, I don't know what we know about that yet.
Yeah, I don't either, truth be told.
But we know that there will be play booster boxes, collector booster boxes, and then 4 different commander decks. There's Revival Trance, which is red, white, black. Limit Break, which is red, green, white. Counter Blitz, which is green, white, blue. And Scions and Spellcraft, which is white, blue, black.
Wow.
And there will both be the regular commander decks of those, and then also collector's edition commander decks.
Wow.
Yeah, right? That's how I feel. There will also be a bundle, a gift bundle, and a starter kit.
All right.
Yeah.
That's, a little something for everyone, it feels like.
And, okay, now we have to get to something truly exciting.
All right.
Truly exciting about this, which is that there's going to be saga creatures, they have told us.
I have heard of this, yes.
This is wild to me.
It is, yes.
This is so cool. So we've seen, there's this one, Summon Shiva. This is 3 blue for a 4/5 enchantment creature, Saga Elemental. It has chapters 1 and 2. Heavenly Strike, tap target creature and opponent controls, put a stun counter on it. Chapter 3, Diamond Dust, draw a card for each tapped creature your opponents control.
Wow.
So like it's both a 4/5 and it has
all
each of these
those things.
effects.
My goodness.
This card is wild, and it appears to only be an uncommon.
It does appear to only be an uncommon. And I love on both of these cards that we've talked about, there's sort of this similar to what they did in the Dungeons and Dragons set. They have like this Heavenly Strike or this Diamond Dust. Obviously those correspond to things that are, exist in the Final Fantasy video games. And so it's a fun way of, if you don't know what Diamond Dust does, you can just kind of keep reading and not panic about it. But if you do know what Diamond Dust did in the video game, it has that kind of extra hook for you of, making you think of maybe moments when you played the video game and cast that spell.
Yeah, we also know that there will be double-faced cards. This is one of the ones that my friend texted me about. Emmett Selch Unsundered on one side, and the other side, Hades Sorcerer of Eld. We also see Garland, Knight of Cornelia, and Chaos the Endless.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they say there will be other new mechanics, but you'll have to wait until May to see more.
Wow.
And we do actually know what the Final Fantasy Through the Ages, which is iconic Magic cards with Final Fantasy artwork. So we see two of those. Yep. We see Dragon of Mount Gulg, which is ancient copper dragon here, with some really gorgeous artwork.
Yeah, it is.
Actually.
It's like, yeah. And similar to a lot of the things they've released recently, it has that, it doesn't quite feel like a Magic card, but in a really interesting way, I think.
Yeah, it's really, really gorgeous. So that's a lot coming our way in June.
Yeah, it really is.
I am really excited for these saga creatures.
Yes,
I will say that this is like one of my favorite.
Yeah, the idea of it is very, very fun. Like, yeah.
I'm excited to see more of those. I'm excited to play with those, honestly.
Yeah.
That just sounds like a really cool Magic card to play with.
Yes. In perhaps in a draft,
Yeah. Before we continue on, we're going to take a moment to thank another one of our sponsors, Dragon Shield. They've just got the best sleeves in the business.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. As we've said recently, being able to play in Commander Arcade, sleeve up with Dragon Shield sleeves, and we often reuse them, and it really, really does feel like they are brand new each time you use them.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. And they've got like their own incredible set of colors. They've got incredible unique art.
Yes.
They also have licensed art that you're just not going to find anywhere else.
Yes.
They have Gremlins sleeves.
I mean, yes, we've played with those, and they are delightful. Yeah.
I make Maria play with them.
Yeah.
It's very funny to me. But they've also got some like really incredible Batman art recently that they have had. Of course, we always talk about their custom art sleeves.
Yes.
Which is just so cool. Like nowhere else is making it so that you can get whatever you want
on your sleeve,
on this box of sleeves.
Yeah, and it's a great gift for yourself or for someone else.
Yes, exactly. It's like, think about it. Think about making some custom sleeves for a friend, maybe for something coming up.
Yeah.
And whenever you order from Dragon Shield, remember to use our link in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, down below, because then you will get 5% off your order if you also use the code GLHF, and they'll know that we sent you, which is great and important. Let's keep rolling through this news, Tyler.
Yeah, it's a pile. I feel like we're digging through it, but like we're making headway, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. We're digging forward like it's a tunnel.
Yeah, and there's something lovely on the other side.
The future.
Yeah, I like that.
So, in case you haven't opened up MTG Arena recently, there are new achievements.
Yes, and it's really it's a very expansive. I would say almost a little overwhelming in the amount of stuff that there is. Like you open it up and you're sort of like, oh my gosh, like where do I even start with this? Like they've created categories for it, which is nice, but there are a lot of different achievements.
Yeah. And luckily it will tell you if it has, like the little shining icon.
Yeah,
to
it
click
does
through
automatically
when you've
say
something.
When you have. So you don't need to go in and you don't need to memorize all the achievements. Like that's not necessary. In fact, I don't recommend it.
No, I have just been living my life.
Yeah,
and also
I like
making achievements, which is a nice feeling.
Okay, that's fair. Isn't
it nice to just sometimes be living your life and have an achievement?
It really, I guess when you put it that way, it really is. Yeah.
So there are, speaking of there being a lot, there's 7 welcome achievements, 17 milestone achievements, 24 format achievements, and 15 advanced ones, and then 10 for each color. So you are very correct when you say it feels
there's
like
a number for sure,
So many.
Yeah.
There are so many.
I feel like one of the things that was immediately visible on this was the sort of like I've forgotten the word that they're using for it. Let me scroll. Titles.
Oh yeah.
That so I immediately noticed when you just see the loading screen of a new game, it'll be like so and so the masterful or so and so seasoned. Like so and so crafty. Like so it's like a way of kind of showing off some aspect of your interaction with Arena that you really want to highlight, and it is pretty, even if this was before I even really totally understood what the achievement situation was, you really are presented with that in a very obvious way. And so there's something interesting about that
situation.
Yeah. Other thing I'll say about it is I kind of wish that there had been a way for them to credit you with some amount of what you'd already done. I think there's a little bit of a feel bad for people who have been playing Arena for a long time.
Yeah, and then
there's there's like 10,000 wins or whatever. And you're like, well, I have a lot. Like, where did all the wins that I already, where did all those wins go,
Where did all those wins go, Tyler?
Yeah, and we don't know the answer to that.
No, we don't.
I get it on some level, but also I wonder if there was a way that they could have at least given a little bit of a nod to the fact that
people who have been playing for
a long time, since the beta or whatever. Yeah.
So they say that there are 3 goals that they set to accomplish with these achievements, which are to encourage exploration. Mm-hmm. So getting people to play in different kinds of ways rather than simply winning. Mm-hmm. Provide engaging content for everyone. They wanted to keep them kind of novel and fun. Mm-hmm. And then promote self-expression, which is where the avatars and the phrases and the stickers and stuff come in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that all makes sense.
Which are all nice.
Yeah.
And, like we said, it's just kind of nice sometimes to just be living your life.
Yeah, truly.
And achieve something.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Hey, I just want to tell you that sometimes just by living your life, you are achieving something.
Yeah, I think really all the time.
All the time.
That's true.
Yeah, quite true. We're trundling towards the end.
Yeah. Great use of the word trundling there.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite. I really like the word trundling.
It's very good, yeah.
Yeah. It is a word. My brain. Look, I'm stuck. Right, I'm just
You're
in
still,
like one.
A part of you is still in Arizona, and a part of you is already in Chicago.
Already in Chicago.
Yeah,
There's so little of me.
Here
right
you
here
are.
in the
Yeah.
I'm really trying to hold.
Hey, I understand. And that's a lot.
Here.
Yeah, like your arms are each reaching out to grasp those 2 different locations, and that's a long way to reach.
We just wanted to call out recently. Mark Rosewater has had some really great pieces over on Blogatog, which is his just little personal Tumblr. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Tumblr, honestly.
Yeah. Not a site you think of as much as you once did.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, there have been a couple of people who have asked some really stupid questions.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair way of putting it.
About representation in Magic.
Yeah, DEI specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And shout out to Mark Rosewater just being like, don't be a butt about this.
Yeah, yeah.
He really does it much more
eloquently than that.
Yes, much more eloquently with a lot more detail and a lot more care and thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
But I really do recommend going over and reading Blogatog about them, because it's really lovely. The things that he's like, the way that he has obviously thought about this, I think it shows, right? It's already reflected in so much of Magic, and especially just in the last few years.
Yes.
This sense that like, hey, fantasy, you think people are asking about like, oh, I like fell in love with, like traditional fantasy or like old school fantasy.
Their idea of fantasy from, 30 years ago or 40 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that was one very specific group of people who are allowed to be defining these things at the time. Mm-hmm. And you got used to this world that was very narrow because they kept it that way, and they allowed each other to write that way. They allowed themselves to develop worlds that way, and society allowed them to do that. Yeah. And it's not accurate. Yeah. I think it's just one of the biggest things. Like, if you're talking about like, oh, it's not like true to fantasy, it's like, well, fantasy was defined during an era when a lot of perspectives were left out of things.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is a responsibility, and it's so like heartening to see a person with so much, with so much power taking the responsibility, like so seriously to say like we are defining fantasy now, and we are specifically saying there have been excluded perspectives that need to be included.
Yeah. And I feel one of the things that really struck me about, especially there's two that I've read, and one of them's more two responses to these sort of questions or comments that I've read, and one of them's more expansive and one of them's shorter. And the expansive one, number one, I know how much time it would take to sit down and write something like that about a topic that is very difficult to write about, very difficult to address because of, it's a topic that is often, even for people who really care about it, it's often difficult to find a way into those conversations. And he really takes both the time and does not, they're not dismissive responses. They dismiss the idea in like a very thoughtful way, I would say. Like the idea does eventually get dismissed, I would say, but not in a way that is dismissive of the person asking the question.
Yeah,
and
that's
I think
very true.
I think that I always appreciate that, because to have conversations like this, that is kind of, I can say, as a white man, I can say that I do feel like that's one of the things that is a responsibility to say, like, oh, this is a place where, I step into this situation with a lot of privilege. What does that mean? What does that mean in terms of what I should do to engage with people, and the amount of effort and like the amount of, you should just be willing to stick your neck out pretty far, I think, in those situations, because you have found yourself in a place of privilege and power and all of that. And I think the points, one of the main things I remember is how well he puts the truth of the fact that you are asking for someone not to be seen in the stuff that is getting put out, is kind of like what the baseline of this idea that fantasy should just stay in some box that is pre-existing and can never change. And the idea that people shouldn't get seen just seems hard to defend to me. Like they're like, what is actually behind that beyond something that is like some real something you have to look inward, I think, to try to navigate for yourself. Because if you're showing up and saying, I would prefer that people not be seen in the pieces of art that I want to consume and that other people want to consume, it's hard for me to understand how you can take that position if you've actually thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as always, Mark Rosewater.
Yeah, I mean,
what a treasure.
Yeah, he's but
absolute freaking treasure, man.
Truly, as you said, for someone who's basically in charge of something that we all really care about. That so often those people are not people that spend very much time considering such things. And we should not to be taken for granted. We
have said for a long time that like what a great person to have magic like in their hands.
Yeah, and to be the sort of like most public representative of it, I think, in the community as well.
Really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler.
Here we are.
We're near the end.
Yeah.
And this is truly the most bizarre piece of news to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think kind of the most unexpected in a way, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is that there's going to be a Magic the Gathering movie.
Yeah, and not only movie, but maybe also TV universe, like in addition to that. Seems wild.
Yeah. So they say, quote, is set for major film and TV adaptations from Legendary Entertainment and Hasbro Entertainment. So these are like the same. Legendary is who's behind Dune, which is heartening.
Yeah.
They're also behind Godzilla.
Less heartening.
I think that you put it really well when you were replying in our Good Luck High Five. Very business forward, professional.
Yes. Business forward, professional forward text group
thread.
Yeah.
Which is how did you say it exactly?
I think I said something. I'm a little going to paraphrase myself. I was like, I think my heart thinks it's going to be. My heart wants it to be Dune. My head thinks it's going to be Warcraft, the movie, or something along those lines. And I think.
Okay, here we go. My heart says it will be the next Dune, but my head says it will be the next Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
All right, I like. Thank you for finding that, because
absolutely
that feels exactly like.
I was gonna say, I think that's just like a great vibe about it.
Yeah.
Also, look, I think that we're all feeling it. We've been burned before. Like we've been burned before by these kinds of promises.
Yes.
So I think a little bit of I think a lot of people are.
Yeah,
like,
it's good to be a little.
When I see it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you can be a little excited, but maybe just wait to hear a few more details before you say, "Heck yeah, I'm already bought into this idea, and nothing could possibly go wrong."
I didn't know that Legendary was also responsible for Detective Pikachu. So you know what? Okay.
Yeah, and also and I think that another like. If you want to look at the optimistic side of things, I think certainly that Dungeons and Dragons movie, the most recent one, was it Den of Thieves? I can't remember. Or Something of Thieves. That was a very entertaining movie for what it was, and I think was universally thought to have been a good representation of the game and the kind of like a good adaptation of it, which is sometimes feels more like the exception than the rule. But if that's true, and we have had that. That recent success, maybe
Honor Among Thieves.
Honor Among Thieves. Thank you. Yes.
91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
that's like solid.
Yeah, very solid.
That's good
for a adaptation of a game.
Absolutely,
that's a solid score.
Really, doing well.
Yeah.
Wow, we made it.
Hey, feels good, and here we are in the future. Wow.
Yeah, here we are. We dug that tunnel through.
Feels good.
I need to go get on a train.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am so excited. I'm taking the train to Chicago.
I really do think I'm excited to hear how that goes because it's been a long time since I've taken a long train ride, but I have very fond memories from when I was younger.
Let me tell you, as you know, and I'm about to tell you all, my flight was delayed 16 hours coming back from Phoenix, which is so long. And I'm just really happy to not be getting on a plane.
Yes.
I'm like really thrilled to not be getting on a plane tomorrow.
At least if a train gets delayed, you just get to stay on the train. You know what I mean? Like
true.
you just kind of get to chill.
Hang out there.
And you can. It's not like getting stuck on a plane where you are just like kind of locked into your seat. You can get up. You can walk around. There's dining cars. There's observation cars. There's just stuff you can do. Things.
Is it just more windows?
Yeah. It's like windows and like larger chairs. You can kind of like slip around. At least this is from a memory. Maybe they've done away with that. Who knows? I mean, we do live in a nightmare of a reality. But let's say that they have held on to some of the nice things about trains. The observation car, I enjoyed it. When I was a kid, like we would go, we lived in North Dakota and we had family in Ohio and we would take the train to Ohio all the time.
I love that.
Yeah, and it was it would be my mom and often it would be my mother and my siblings. I have a sister and a brother, and we would be on the train and we would be walking around and you'd eat on the train, and it really was a pleasant experience, I would say, overall. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Hopefully this has been a pleasant experience. Much like sitting in the observation car of a train traveling from North Dakota to Ohio.
And I would say that, a podcast is kind of like the train of entertainment in the sense that you can get up and you can walk around. It's not like you're in a TV. It's a lot like an airplane. It's flashy, it's fast, but like you can't really get up and walk around and do other things. And by God, when you're listening to a podcast, you can get up and move around.
Okay, hear me out.
Yeah, please.
Airplanes are movies.
Yep.
Cars are TV shows.
I like that.
And then podcasts are trains.
Trains.
Wow. There you go.
Now that is content.
I knew it there.